Welcome, everybody. This is, I'm not sure which session this is. I think that we're on number 4 or 5, but you are in Networking Without Networking events through the virtual summit that everyone needs right now. This is kind of just a last minute thing that we were able to pull together, but covering a lot of different topics. And this one is especially interesting because I don't think we've ever been in this situation before where literally everybody is in the same boat. So excited to talk more about this topic. This is going to be recorded, so if you feel like sharing this with your peers or your friends, that would be awesome. I will send the recording in an email sometime later today, along with a survey that I would love for you to complete. And the chat function is open. So if you have any comments, feel free to utilize that. Any questions, please ask them. Don't feel like you have to wait until the end. Please ask questions. This is more of a fireside kind of a conversation than, a true question and answer. So utilize that. And with that, I will let us get going. My name is Maggie Carruth O'Connor. I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I work for a company in Atlanta, and I also am starting my own business in the culture space. And I will let the other wonderful people introduce themselves too.
Leshia, you're first.
Oh, me first.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Ladies first. Thank you. First off, I just want to say thanks again, Maggie, for putting on this event. Like you said, this is definitely something that everyone needs right now. So I'm really happy to be here. My name is Leshia Doyle. I'm Senior Sales Manager for Third Door Media. I've been selling media for a little over 10 years. I got started in cable advertising with HGTV and Food Network and just went on from there. So yeah, super happy to be here. I'm coming in from Brooklyn, New York. So yeah, it's been interesting. So
welcome.
Thank you.
Nice. Leshia, I can't top that. Maggie, thanks again. Appreciate you inviting an old dude to come in and talk about networking when we're not networking. I went ahead and dropped a little comment, by the way, in the chat. So I want anybody who's joining, don't be shy, ask away. Let's get this thing fired up. I'm Paul Carpenter. I'm with Lion Star Films, video production. I'm in Atlanta, so we actually have a nice little representation here. But I think for the purpose of this call and meetup, I'm also on the board for the Atlanta Interactive Marketing Association, and I am in charge of membership. And so therefore I hold a lot of networking events. So I think that's probably the better thread versus my video production side of things. But definitely we're finding it challenging, and I'll go ahead and throw that out there. We're finding it challenging as well. And in the midst of planning how to do networking without networking events. So I'm here to learn just as much as I'm here to drop some knowledge. So let's have some fun.
Yeah, well, gosh, I can't imagine what that would be like for you guys trying to plan events out in the future, because we don't really know when this is going to end. So I'm sure that there's a level of anxiety there. But I'm so excited that you two specifically are here because in my mind, from what I've seen with you, Leshia, and from what I know about you, Paul, you guys are networking kings and queens. I mean, you guys know what to do and you know how to do it. And you do it though with such intentionality, and you're so genuine. And so how do we do this when we can't shake someone's hand, when we can't, go, interject in a group of people and whatever, it's such an interesting time. How are we doing that? How are you guys coping with all of that and not being able to have that human interaction?
Paul, I'll let you go first.
Oh, no way. Well, listen, first off, coping is, it's human and we're all doing it. So whether we're master networkers or cycling enthusiasts or beer nerds or whatever, it doesn't matter what we are or what we do. we're all sitting here coping and doing things like this to help maintain a little bit of sanity. So, you know, yeah, I'm trying to jump on as many of these as possible and trying to make them more interactive, if you will. My personality alone, I do try to get out of comfort zones. I try to get other people out of comfort zones, but do it, like you said, with intention and a purpose of making sure the other person, is getting more out of it than I am. And so I just think that's kind of how I'm addressing it right now.
Yeah, same here. You know, everyone's going through it. So just really being sensitive and cognitive of that, that this is a sensitive time for people. So in terms of networking, when reaching out, you know, not being afraid to mention kind of the elephant in the room, if you will. So yeah, it's definitely, it's been tough for sure. But yeah, just hanging in there. LinkedIn has been fabulous. There's been so many events like this, and so many virtual meetups and whatnot. So I've had a couple of calls with people just reaching out, wanting to talk, say hello. So yeah, it's been good. It's been good in that sense.
Do you guys think that this will change just general networking moving forward? Are there going to be things that we can take away that we can apply to how we network and how we create relationships moving forward once all of this is said and done, hopefully sooner than later?
Your turn, Leshia.
Yeah, no, definitely, for sure. You know, like you said, Paul, getting out of your comfort zone, for sure. And just, you know, this time has really allowed us, I think, people to explore different ways to network with people. So, you know, I've seen everything. I've seen people doing, you know, videos and giving quick tips and, you know, becoming an expert, starting a dialogue in their fields. And someone who's been really good at that, I'm going to mention, is Leah. You know, Leah. She's been giving like her thoughts and tips on job hunting, you know, during this time. So yeah, I think people are definitely coming up with unique and creative ideas that they can also do when this is all over. You can definitely, you know, implement a lot of these ideas as well. So
yeah, that's a great point for sure.
Yeah, I would say networking as a whole won't change, because networking, by the definition of it, and we've kind of talked about this before, is really relationship driven. Yeah, the handshake, the hug, the physical interaction of a relationship goes a million miles. I mean, it is imperative, but relationships in of themselves, as long as we can have somebody to voice, or somebody to listen to, or somebody to be there for, that's kind of true relationship building. And I think just being there into that, and I know we've talked about this before as well, you know, just checking in with people, and kind of getting past the hey, let's just talk business, like connect on a more human level.
Yeah.
With your colleagues, your clients, your suppliers, whoever it is in your network, reach out to them. You know, the just checking in has always been kind of frowned upon if you're not supplying value. But I'd argue in this day and age, just checking in is probably the most valuable thing we can do as humans, much less business people. So
I agree fully. And, you know, I think I've never been a fan of just the word networking. It just kind of has not the best connotation, maybe. And I think if there's anything that we're learning, it's the relationship building. I think that's what networking really is. It's
sure,
right. It's creating and cultivating relationships. And I agree with you fully, Paul, that a check-in is very well received right now. And you just don't know how valuable that could be for somebody. And, you know, maybe it sparks some serious joy that's needed from the person that's receiving that check-in. We just don't know. But if you're thinking about somebody, I think we would all argue, shoot them a text or an email, reach out. I love that piece. I think that's, the relationship building is the focus, I think.
The tools have just changed.
Yeah, for sure. So from a more like tactile perspective, you know, I would love to dive a little bit into that too. You know, how do we utilize LinkedIn and even email to communicate with people and to cultivate these relationships? What do you guys think are kind of best practices right now?
And I've been looking around. I've seen a couple of things. One thing that I really liked, someone gave this idea, was, you know, hosting a virtual meetup, you know, with 10 people you've been wanting to connect with. Maybe it's 5 people you know, 5 people you don't know. And then just talking about what's happening over coffee, like a coffee meetup. It could be about the industry you're in. It could be just, you know, we're all going through this pandemic. You know, what's it been like? How's your business? So people responding. How's your family? Different things like that. So I think that's one way, definitely, to utilize this time, is to do, like, you know, and they're happening everywhere, virtual meetups. So but yeah, that's one tip. I have a couple of others, but I'll save those.
Okay. Paul, what about you? How are you?
Nice.
How are you leveraging LinkedIn right now?
I actually haven't changed anything, only because I've probably for the last 5 years have used LinkedIn as really my preferred social platform. You know, no offense to anybody who loves Facebook and things like that. I just don't do it anymore. I found it more distracting. So I truly leverage really Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Those are my 3 go-tos, and I'm more intentional about LinkedIn, and I think it's appropriate for this conversation that LinkedIn is everything. And I do want to address something really quick. I get easily distracted, so sorry about that. But Nikki, by the way, hello, Nikki. You're awesome. She's talked about things like, you know, this kind of platform, and I'll jump back to LinkedIn here in a second, not being very interactive per se.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I want to stick a pin in for later. So Nikki, we will definitely get to that. For LinkedIn, it hasn't changed for me. I will say there are some best practices that if people out there are not active on LinkedIn, now's the time to kind of figure it out. But I would say use it the same way you use the other platforms. I know that might be very confrontational or not confrontational. That might throw some social media people in a tizzy, but use it that way. But just be very intentional and professional about it. Use it as a way to get your content out there. I see another person here who I know we both know, Nick. Nick uses it really well, and he's a creative. Mm-hmm. And I highly recommend, if anybody out there is creative, first, follow Nick. Second, use LinkedIn. It is not just for salespeople, job hunters, and things like that. Get your portfolio out there, get creative with it, drop some knowledge, give some points of view, and that starts conversations, and conversations are relationships.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, and I'd like to, Maggie, I'd just like to harp on that. I think now too is the perfect time to use LinkedIn as a platform for serving others, right? So coming up with, whether it's an article or whatnot, of something someone can use, whether it's, you know, for a job hunt, for their job. But yeah, I totally agree with you, Paul.
Yeah. And I was just going to say on the LinkedIn piece that, just to piggyback, it's going back to the idea of networking not being what everybody thinks networking is. Dropping that knowledge, sharing an article, people yearn for that. I think we're all curious to know, what the latest in video marketing is, and, all these different things. And that leads to relationships. So I agree fully. I think LinkedIn is a great platform for that. I'd also argue, I think you utilize each social platform differently, but I'm only on Instagram and LinkedIn. And I would say if we're using the definition of networking as relationship building, Instagram can be that too. Now, it depends.
100%.
Again, I think how you approach those platforms is a little bit different, but LinkedIn isn't the only platform where you can build and cultivate these relationships. So yeah, just wanted to throw that out there too. And I am looking at this chat, and I'm realizing that I can allow attendees to talk. So if you guys want to chime in on this conversation, like Nikki, if you want me to let you talk, I would love that. Again, this is more of just a conversation with all of us. And that's not just Nikki, that's for anybody. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. And Nick, to your point about finding and attending more networking and industry events since quarantine began, I think that is awesome that you're doing that. And hopefully other people are feeling the same and are in the same boat of, wow, it's actually a little bit easier nowadays because I can just type in my email address, register, and get a reminder, and I can plug in, and perhaps that's awesome for, not a term I love to use, but the extrovert and the introverts. Maybe there are folks who aren't really excited about going to those face-to-face events, right? But they could definitely attend some sort of webinar or some sort of Zoom chat. So yeah, that's a good point, Nick.
Yeah, and kind of be a fly on the wall if you want.
Yeah.
And I think that's incredible. It's safe. The other thing I do want to say is, let's not forget your 2-day conference you created in less than 2 weeks. And you did it through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Primarily.
Yeah.
Right. And so talk about networking. You just put together, I don't know, a dozen or more panels. And so that just really does show you kind of the power of a platform like that, and leveraging the relationships you've built over time, whether that's through LinkedIn, whether that's face-to-face, whether that's Instagram, whether that's working with you. The whole point is just human connection. And I think just getting back to the roots of who we are as humans, and whether you're an introvert or extrovert, there is that human connection that's everybody needs.
Yeah, I agree fully.
Sure.
What are you guys top of mind with this topic? What are the things that you are really dying to talk about, or you want to just kind of offload? Is there anything top of mind for y'all?
Wow. There's quite a lot for me, and it's hard for me to, the main thing, like what's top of mind for me, is not necessarily business related. It still kind of goes back to just all of us as humans. And I have to thank you, Maggie, for this in a weird way. But it's something that stuck with me for the past week when we first engaged about doing this, and that is vulnerability. Vulnerability. This global pandemic is global. It's not just a recession. It's not a housing crisis. It's not 9/11. This is different. It impacts the entire world. And from CEO to a line cook, to somebody who works at the national parks, we have all been impacted by this. And so we are all vulnerable, and we're all feeling it, which means I think we need more of this. Because if you don't have more of this, and quote unquote networking or relationships, you're going to go nuts. And that's mental health to me, I think, is going to be one of the biggest things. That's kind of top of mind for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree. Mental health for sure is definitely top of mind and a concern going forward with this. I know for me in the beginning, I was like, oh, I'm fine. This is great. I get to stay home. It's, it's not crowded in New York. The parks are free. This is great. But, after a while, it gets a little lonely sometimes. And, you can do all the Zoom calls and whatnot, but these events definitely help with staying out there, staying current, seeing what's happening, and not allowing yourself to go crazy. So
yeah, the vulnerability piece is, I think, important, but I think it also means that the level of empathy that we have for folks hopefully is present and growing too, right? So I think those two kind of go hand in hand. And just in general, the expectations that people have for one another when we're doing these kinds of Zoom calls or whatever, I think that has changed too. And I hope that carries forward and that we're able to, be a little bit more understanding, but also be a little bit more vulnerable with one another, even when we're quote unquote returning to normal. So, okay, cool. Any questions, any comments from anybody that's listening? We definitely want to keep this nice and casual. And also, if you guys have anything that you want to talk about from a tactile kind of tangible perspective for how to utilize different platforms or strategies, that would be great. Let's talk about that too.
I actually have a few that I jotted down. And this is something I've seen other people do as well. But in terms of tactics and ways to go about using LinkedIn, I don't know about others, but in the past when I've been on LinkedIn, I'm one of those people that just pushes the like button. I haven't really commented or whatnot. So I think it's really important now to engage with your peers on their post when it comes to LinkedIn. If you see something that interests you, why not go above and beyond a like and start a dialogue in the comment section? I think that's a great way to network and start other dialogues with other users. So that's something that I made a promise to myself to do, just going a little bit above and beyond. Something else I thought about too is writing an article featuring other people's expertise. Reaching out to maybe 10 people you admire and asking them if you can quote them in an article. I mean, the worst thing they can say is no. I think this would be great probably for more introverted people. Just, coming up with some kind of article that's related to your industry and whatnot. And again, you're amplifying your platform, to serve others. So those are my two suggestions.
You know what? That made me think, Paul, you do this really well. When you write a post, you tag people in your post.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's such a good idea because it kind of, and you only do it if it's relevant, which I really appreciate. You're not just blindly tagging folks in post.
Yeah, right.
Talk more about that. How does that work for you?
It works out great. But it really hits on Leshia's point, which is almost it's doing it without reaching out. So, I haven't really received any backlash from doing that because I think, again, it's very intentional. It's very relevant. If it's giving kudos to somebody, I do this quite frequently, where the way the algorithm works too, if Maggie, if you like somebody's post and they're a number 2 connection to me, I will still see it.
Yep.
And if I find that what you liked is also very interesting, I'll go in and celebrate it, find it insightful. I tend to use the other ones besides just the thumbs up, by the way, just depending on on what the topic is. And I will go ahead and write a comment on that person's post, and they're a number 2 connection to me through you, let's say. And suddenly they're like, hey, appreciate that, Paul. And then that at least starts a little bit of a dialogue. But again, it's not under the intention of selling or doing anything like that. It is just true. Like, I admire that. That was really thoughtful and really smart. And they took the time to do it, to post it. Let's give them a little love.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I think, yeah, I love that too. I think, I wish I knew a little bit more about the algorithm, but I think knowing that even if you're not connected with someone, there are still opportunities to be, in someone else's, view, and interacting with folks, even if you aren't that first connection, is okay. Which brings me to my next question. How do you guys approach adding new folks on LinkedIn?
Ooh, can I jump in on this?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. First off, let's back up and go.
Great question.
Yeah, this is phenomenal. First off, anybody listening, please do not just hit the connect button on LinkedIn and send them the blanket text that says, I want to be in your network. Personalize that invite. Always personalize it. Make sure it points back to some, maybe a time you met, the people you're connected to, you share, maybe you're in the same groups or something. Always tie it back to something that they go, all right, that person's not just hitting me up. So first and foremost, always personalize your invite. Second, on the receiving end, if I'm getting an invite, I would say 70% of the time I will accept them. I'm and you'll see it on my LinkedIn profile, glass half full kind of person, or maybe 80% of the time. If you do just I just want to be in your network, and I go and I look at your profile and we have nothing in common, like nothing, maybe one shared connection or something, and we're not even in the same business, that's when I kind of ignore. But for the most part, I accept. And then I like to dig in a little bit after that and go, hey, love it. Really appreciate the invite. Happy to try to provide as much value to your network as possible. Let me know how I can help. Feel free to reach out. I do all of that kind of olive branch, have that olive branch mentality. And, 9 times out of 10 that people are looking for a job or something like that. And I'm okay with that. That's the whole point of having a network. Who can I connect you with?
Yeah.
So.
And I can't really top that, Maggie, in the same way.
I'm so sorry.
I mean, no. I mean, a message with the connection request is just so important. Otherwise, I'm most likely going to delete, especially if we don't have anyone in common or any mutual connections. Just being more personable for sure.
Yeah.
So. You hit it on the nail.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
I feel bad though for the true salespeople, like the BDRs and the SDRs out there who utilize LinkedIn as part of their pipeline. Because sometimes I know that their end goal is to just bring more awareness to whatever product it is that they have, and if it's a really good short little message, I will usually accept it and then say, hey, how can I help you, or whatever. And if it's just to kind of, hey, I want to set a meeting with you, then I'm like, dang it, but hopefully, it does serve them in some capacity. Maybe it's later down the road. But yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is always include a message, provide context when you're connecting with folks on LinkedIn. I want to read this comment from Nikki that she sent just a few minutes ago. I've found networking on Slack to be the most similar to in person. It's very easy to jump in conversations or find someone you may have a lot in common with, depends on the Slack group. I think Leshia said it, but I've also been thinking about putting together some random / handpicked groups of 5 to 10 people to meet via video. You never know who or where it could lead. So yeah, that's great. The Slack piece is really interesting.
And I'm reading it as well. We just created a networking event.
I guess we did.
Because Nick and Nikki just connected.
Oh yeah, I just saw that.
See?
That's awesome.
So networking without networking events, it can be done if you know Maggie.
Oh, no.
That's the bottom line of this.
No, that's awesome though. I never thought about Slack.
Slack is great.
Yeah.
Slack is great. I myself am part of a community on Slack called Sisters in Sales.
Cool.
And it's been an awesome resource. I mean, they post things about jobs and resources and webinars and events, now virtual events going on. So I have to agree that Slack has been really helpful in that way for sure.
Do you guys know if you're able to search for different groups in Slack? Does anyone know that answer?
That is a good question, because I joined the Slack group from their website.
Right.
So I haven't really done like a search.
That would be interesting if there's a way to kind of know how to search Slack and see what groups exist out there. Nikki said she's been finding her Slack groups on LinkedIn. Yeah. So LinkedIn is where it all starts, and then we move to Slack.
Love LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's awesome. What else? Any other kind of top of mind things related to this topic that you guys want to talk about?
In terms of tactics, I did have two more others. Possibly, building and distributing maybe some kind of resource list for your contacts or your friends or colleagues. So maybe doing a list of contacts in your industry, or companies hiring, people are looking for jobs, or just putting together an Excel sheet with useful articles or white papers or whatnot. I think that's a great way also to start a conversation with people. And then last but not least, maybe putting together, going back to, groups and meetings, some kind of alumni group with, an organization you're a part of or used to be a part of, or, a company you used to work for, doing that as well. So.
Love that.
I definitely think you have to get creative these days. So
yeah, I have a question. I don't know if you guys have an answer or could really figure this one out on the spot, but how many hours do you think the average person should use for networking purposes, building relationships? What does that actually look like in a work day?
Oh, wow. I could probably pull up on my phone since our phones say, hey, how much screen time have you had and stuff like that. I would venture to say, for me, and again, it's not obviously a standard, and it probably doesn't apply to everybody, but I'd say for me, I probably spend on average an hour to 2 hours on LinkedIn throughout the day, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. So again, with LinkedIn kind of being the tool that I'm using the most, and again, I haven't really changed my behaviors much. That's kind of what I'm doing.
Cool. That's helpful.
I have to say for me, I mean, I feel like I'm on LinkedIn all day, off and on, just because I'm in sales and in my industry. Yeah, it does feel like it. I'm not like just constantly on, but all day pretty much. So, I mean, I guess it varies from person to person and what your day looks like, but it's kind of part of my job to be on LinkedIn. So.
Yeah. I don't know when I did this, but I think I kind of created a habit. It might've been years ago when I left Facebook, and I don't regret leaving. But you have that habit when you used to be on social media platforms all the time, and if you aren't doing something that requires your attention immediately, the habit is just to pick up your phone, right? And just like go in and search and scroll or whatever. And I think at some point, I don't remember exactly when, but I turned that habit of going to Facebook or going to Twitter and just going to LinkedIn, like just going to LinkedIn.
That's why I got rid of Facebook.
Yeah.
It was so distracting. And I found myself not only it taking time away from the family and dinner time, or like, again, that's just awful to say. But
one thing I find that helps is turning off notifications.
Yes, and that's another great one.
Yeah. Sure.
So yeah, same thing. I find, again, it's more intentional, and we're talking about networking. So that should be your go-to. Whether it's first thing in the morning or after lunch or whatever, that should be the platform. Stop wasting time on a Facebook or something, unless that is part of your networking network, if you will, your relationship building, which it can be. A lot of success there, but and people like doing business. Their friends are, with their friends. So, who's to say? But real quick, I looked up most used apps on my device this week.
Okay.
Messages was number one. Like, what?
Of course.
1 hour and 53 minutes, followed by LinkedIn, 1 hour and 52 minutes, and then mail at 1 hour and 31 minutes. Because
that checks out. All of that checks out.
That does check out.
Yeah.
So
I love that. Look at you being vulnerable too. I love it.
All right. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. Well, it's approaching that time. If anybody has any questions, now's the time. I can also enable you to ask the questions live. So please let me know if you have anything to say. Otherwise, if there's questions trickling in, I just want to reiterate that this is being recorded. So would love for you guys to share this. I'll send the video or the recording out in an email along with a survey. Please share this, use this. I think we all kind of just wonder in the back of our heads, wait, how do we work with people? How do we deal with people right now? I don't know what to do. So, and then I also just want to thank you guys. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Leshia, for your time.
Yeah, of course.
For joining us. And that's all I have. So,
well, let me ask a question to our host.
Oh boy.
Right? You're the culture. You're the culture queen.
Oh goodness.
How are you using LinkedIn, or what other maybe platforms or elements? Is it picking up the phone? Good old fashioned phone calls. How are you working in the world of culture when we're physically not able to be cultural?
So one thing that I think has been pretty cool, at least speaking to the company that I work for right now, there are virtual happy hours that happen bi-weekly on Fridays. And I think one of the beautiful things about that is that came organically from the employees, not from leadership or from me saying, you guys should consider this. So I think the reason why that became a thing was because, you have to create a culture of, in my opinion, context sharing and a culture of openness to enable people to feel empowered to do the things that they think would benefit themselves and other people within the company. And so because of that, this virtual happy hour started, and it seems to be a really popular thing and something that everyone looks forward to. For me personally, in terms of building relationships, it's definitely LinkedIn. I would say the only concern that I have, and this is an interesting topic that maybe you guys could add on, is making sure that my feed stays diverse and that it isn't just the same people that I'm seeing, or the same people are liking a lot of the same things. So whether or not it's their post or a post that they liked, that's the one thing that I'm trying to figure out how to navigate through, is making sure that I'm not just having tunnel vision with the types of people that I'm trying to connect with and the groups of people that I'm
I'll say,
Maggie, do you follow like hashtags or anything? Have you?
I honestly probably should. That might help.
Yeah, that's a great way to
add
diversify
more hashtags.
your feed. Yeah.
Great advice, Leshia. Yeah, for sure. And I think that goes back to a little bit of what I was talking about earlier, which is engaging with some of those 2+ connections. Go ahead and write that comment down in their post, because now, and go and follow them too. That's the other thing. So follow hashtags, but also don't be afraid to go in under the more button next to connect, click more. And if they have the feature turned on for their own profile, click the plus sign, click follow, and follow them along. And now their content will start showing up in your feed. And the more you engage, it's like any other algorithm, the more you engage with them, the more their content will show up. The more their content shows up, the more you engage, the more likely you are to connect with them.
Yeah.
So.
Dang.
I feel like you have that algorithm down, Paul.
Yeah, you do.
Yes.
Write that down.
Yes.
Okay.
Great resource.
It has been a pleasure chatting with you guys. And we're 2 minutes shy of 2:30.
Love it.
This has been awesome. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening. Hope everybody has a good rest of their day. Thanks again.
Yeah, everybody be safe.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Maggie. Good to see you.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah,
Bye.
be safe up there.
Bye, everybody.
Pleasure. Yeah,
Bye,
thank
everybody.
you. You as well. Bye-bye.